Okay, good morning. My name is Scott McKendrick. I'm head of Western Heritage Collections here at the British Library and also chair of the Manuscripts Expert Group within Searle. So it's a great pleasure to chair this section, which I hope is going to be completely about manuscripts. Our third speaker is on his way as I speak. First speaker is Ivan Boserup, I think a founding father of Searle. Yes? Sort of. Certainly there from the start. So it's a good starting point to the day. Ivan was head of manuscripts and rare books at the Royal Library in Copenhagen. And today he's going to talk to us about strategies for separating authentic and forged colonial manuscripts. Ivan.
Okay. And thank you for inviting me to make this presentation of a project I've worked on for, for very many years. In the 17th century, Protestant Scandinavia looked upon Catholic Spain and its global empire with a mixture of admiration, fear, and disgust. Denmark and Spain never declared war to one another during the 30 Years' War, but Spain's naval forces had molested the Danish merchant fleet, and numerous ambassadors were sent to Madrid to have such damages to Danish economy compensated at a time when Spain was going down. One particular Danish ambassador was successful in striking a favorable deal, and was knighted when he returned. He collected Spanish books and manuscripts, and he may, but we do not know for sure, in return have given to the king a manuscript that would have confirmed his negative view of Spanish governance, in particular if the Danish king ever cast a glance at some particularly revealing of the 400 full-page drawings, including in this manuscript of all in all 1,200 pages. In other words, the Nueva Crónica y Buen Gobierno manuscript in the Royal Library in Copenhagen, the New Chronicle and Good Government, translated to English, which was composed, drafted, clean copied, and illustrated from circa 1610 to 1615 by Felipe Huaman Poma de Ayala, is a revolutionary. It has been called a letter to the king and is full of utopian criticism of the Spanish abuse and repression of the Indians, urging the King of Spain exactly 400 years ago to call back his colonists and administration and give home rule to the Indians. The king's men are depleting and destroying the country, he writes. The villages are deserted and the cities populated with gangsters and prostitutes. Soon the king will have no more revenues from his colonies, formerly so rich and well organized under Andean rule, whether Inca or from other ethnies. The manuscript is documented in the King of Denmark's library by 1670, but had been rebound by bookbinders who had little Spanish. And the manuscript was practically forgotten until a German scholar in 1908 stumbled over it in the catalogue of the Royal Library, was allowed to have it on loan in Göttingen nearly indefinitely, and told the world about it. Through the past century, its fame has grown steadily, and Huaman Poma is today, west of the Cordillera, a symbol of the lost but never forgotten struggle against foreign influence and local collaborators. It is no coincidence that the both heroic and barbarian activities of the Sendero Luminoso movement during the 1980s were in fact initiated in Ayacucho, Huaman Poma's home city. In 1989, a book was published in Genoa by two journalists from Naples, Clara Miccinelli and Carlo Animato, describing in journalistic style a small collection of Peruvian manuscripts inherited by Clara and their astonishing contents. They describe in great detail, with original examples, how there in Inca times had existed communication by so-called royal or syllabic quipu medium, consisting of knots on cords that, together with symbols for a limited set of master words, could mimic, preserve, and communicate speech. The system was known from other sources, but never so explicitly endorsed and described. Indeed, the Miccinelli manuscripts contested many traditional views on Andean history and anthropology. Pizarro had not defeated the huge Inca army by honest and legitimate warfare, but by poisoning the Inca's general staff and enslaving the common Indians. Another old truth redefined as fake news was that Huamampuma was not the author of the Nueva Crónica. It had instead been written by the Jesuit father Blas Valera, born by an Indian woman and a Spanish soldier. Blas Valera had as missionary become wary of the system and was head of a group of dissident Jesuits. Blas Valera had been arrested by the internal Jesuit Inquisition and exiled to Spain. Another Jesuit, Brother Gonzalo Ruiz, had clean copied Blas Valera's text of the Nueva Crónica manuscript and had made all the illustrations. All this was mentioned in the first of the two Miccinelli manuscripts, or rather folders or mini-archives, in all less than 100 pages. The first manuscript to be released to the public, Historia et Rudimenta Lingua Peruanorum, consists of four main parts. First, a treatise in Latin in 2 columns, a very basic introduction to the grammar of the official Indian language of the Incas and the Spanish authorities, Quechua, and the mentioned syllabic quipu system. It is followed immediately by a text in numeric code, as you can see, discovered by Miccinelli or deciphered by Clara Miccinelli to be Italian and hence decoded, and found to contain a kind of chronicle of Blas Valera's life. He was exiled but did not die in 1597, as pretended by the Jesuits, but more than 20 years later, thus allowing him plenty of time to return secretly to Peru, write the Nueva Crónica, be reconciled with the new general of the Jesuit mission, and die peacefully in Spain in 1619. An interesting feature to which I will return is the so-called painted quipu. The so-called painted quipu of the grammatical part, representing the first 2 lines of a song, so to say, knotted up according to the described system. A third link creates a direct link, a third page in this manuscript creates a direct link between the Miccinelli manuscripts and one of the most famous drawings of the Nueva Crónica, showing the Minister of Finances with his budget and the account books of the Inca. On the page of the Miccinelli manuscript, one can see a computational device, a so-called Upada, corresponding exactly to the one near the treasurer's leg, reinterpreted in terms of the syllables of a song. The reference, of course, is crystal clear and seems to neatly confirm the common origin of the 2 drawings and hence of a common author. Among loose pieces of the first manuscript, Historia et Rudimenta, I mentioned a drawing in 3 pieces of the first lines of the same song, converted not into the Upana medium, but into plain syllabic quipu, so to say, with Blas Valera's signature on the lowest one, and thus confirming again information in the part of the manuscript encoded Italian. While a professor in Bologna, Laura Laurencich-Minellii, had taken contact with Clara Miccinelli and arranged that she would help her publish in a more scientific way the marvelous contents of her collection, so to say, all international renowned Andean scholars of some renown rejected Clara Miccinelli's manuscripts as evident forgeries, infuriated by the way in which she denied them the right to themselves investigate at leisure her unbelievable and, in all probability, fake manuscripts. However, none of their harsh criticism could amount to a proof rather than circumstantial and therefore debatable evidence. Maybe with one exception, the use of, in the final passage of the Latin grammatical treatise, of the word genocidium, describing the Spanish conquest and colonization. At a conference held in Rome in 1999, Miccinelli and Animato, the two authors of the Quipu book, replied more or less cogently to other criticism, but pretended that they had misread the word genocidium. The real reading should be gen for gentis or generis, and ossidium with one C, which is wrong. But no, the real reading, shouted out, I think, at the conference, was genee dium. Unfortunately, Rolena Adorno, professor at Yale University, and the world's leading specialist on Wamantoma, subsequently confronted these silly and impossible readings with a facsimile published by Miccinelli and Animato in 1989, and concluded that forgery was hereby now a clear and proven thing. However, since few scholars today, other than Latinists by profession, can distinguish Latin from non-Latin, critics have not made a big case out of it, and supporters of the Miccinelli manuscripts have closed their eyes and ears and remained supportive. The reason for this was, or may be, that the second Miccinelli manuscript was released at the same conference. It was not yet made public and accessible for scholarly research, but merely described in great detail by Laura Laurencich-Minellii, the professor from Bologna, with reference to her edition on the preparation of both manuscripts. It came out in 2007. While the first manuscript is a complex mix of text, languages, genres, and media, including textile, syllabic, quipu, the second manuscript is all in all, is completely in Latin, and all supposedly written by Blas Valera. Another reason, let's see, what has, I think, could be that a specialist in graphoscopia in Italian, as this relatively occult science is called in Italian, had been called in to evaluate the authenticity of all written texts in the Miccinelli manuscripts and had declared under oath what he was expected to declare. Likewise, reports were given at the conference about advanced tests of molecular level of the materials, which the manuscripts and many small artifacts consisted of. All set in motion by Clara and Laura alone, and all, oops, wait. What is page 5? All confirming datings compatible with about 1500. That is, confirming that old writing material had been used, but not saying, of course, anything about when they had been inscribed. In the second manuscript, 99% of all text is in the handwriting of Blas Valera, as I mentioned. It is very peculiar, with many jumping. It is very peculiar, with many individual features and abbreviations. It is all supposedly written with ordinary ink, lamp black nerofumo in Italian. One single document, however, is written with iron gal ink. Oops. What is it? Yeah, that one. as the Nueva Coronica is. The handwriting is expressly identified by a signature as being that of Gonzalo Ruiz, the supposed illustrator and clean copier of the Nueva Coronica. Again, it all fits together wonderfully. In the second manuscript, it is Blas Valera himself who tells his personal life story. It matches and confirms and develops what was basically already known from the coded piece in the first manuscript. The second manuscript also, can I find it? Yeah, very much develops the concept of syllabic quipu for all sorts of uses. The conference in 1999, published in a book of 400 pages, revealed that new material had turned up both inside and outside of the Miccinelli collection by Laurencich-Minellii and two professors in Naples and Rome, respectively. Laurencich-Minellii had found on 28th May 1998, hidden within a medallion of red wax, nothing less than a written and signed contract between the poor, unreliable, vainglorious, and heavily alcoholized Indian named Guaman and the conspirators of Blas Valera, the co-conspirators of Blas Valera. It stipulated what Guaman would get as a reward for allowing the conspirators to use his name as author of the Nueva Coronica, a cart and a horse. Laurencich-Minellii was elated. At last, it was proved beyond doubt that every word of the Miccinelli manuscripts were true. Furthermore, a document in Latin was discovered in the Jesuit archive in Rome, signed B.V. Exul Emeritus Indigenus Blas Valera, Alcalá in Spain, 1619, apparently with reference to many of his Jesuit friends, and in particular to the Nueva Coronica y Buen Gobierno manuscript stated to have been completed. The title of the manuscript is hidden in an anagram of 32 letters, 32 letters. The handwriting matches, of course, the handwriting found in the second manuscript, Blas Valera's. Another document. Another document discovered in the State Archives in Naples is a drawing of, in Nueva Coronica style and signed by two anagrams, Gonzalo Ruiz, the supposed illustrator of the Nueva Coronica. Annexed to one of the two letters by the Viceroy of Lima to the current Viceroy in Naples, talking about thievish Indians, dissident Jesuits who fear neither God nor the Inquisitor, and even mentioning the native alias of Blas Valera, according to the Miccinelli manuscripts, Rui Ruruna, the name of Blas Valera's maternal grandfather. Furthermore, in 2003, the same scholar published the discovery in libraries in Naples of two extremely rare publications, in fact, only known through this discovery. On the one hand, an interview it's not that one. On the one hand, an interview with Clara Miccinelli's maternal uncle, Riccardo Cera, about his small collection of Peruviana, that is, the collection inherited by Clara. On the other hand, a catalogue of a collector of Peruviana residing in Naples, Emilio di Tomasi, printed in 1899. In this catalogue, both Miccinelli manuscripts are nicely registered one by one in some detail, that is, from item 1 to item 44. This more or less put an end to all public discussion of the authenticity from the critical party. Rolena Adorno had, after 1999, decided never to waste more time in the discussions, and her example was welcomed and followed by other outstanding professionals. However, Laurencich-Minellii and her supporters arranged and hosted conferences, wrote PhD dissertations, and innumerable articles on the basis of the Miccinelli documents. And as head of the department of the Royal Library in Copenhagen, in which Waman Poma, and undoubtedly the most spectacular of the manuscripts of this library, was abused and disfigured as a crazy Jesuit wannabe conspirator. That seemed unbearable. In 2007, Laura Laurencich-Minellii published all the Miccinelli manuscripts. Not well, in fact, quite badly, but making available at last the total corpus. It seemed, at least, and some good illustrations. One could begin again from scratch, but probably without new disturbing revelations if one worked in silence. With a colleague specialized in fake photographs and ghosts and dancing tables and that kind of stuff, of resuscitated Napoleons and beloved grandmothers, we set out on a search for material evidence of forgery that would be more convincing on ordinary scholars than Miccinelli's true and absolutely definitive reading of the word genocidium. In 2012, we proved materially that the drawing on the contract discovered by Laurencich-Minellii was a tracing that included retouching errors made when the Nueva Coronica was facsimilated in 1936. I hope this picture, together with the two next ones, where we've put the two pictures on top of one another, proving that it is a tracing, and these three examples of how an error in the middle column from the facsimile has been reproduced in the drawing of the contract. That was very simple, in fact, and our findings were published in 2015. Furthermore, we showed that many textual elements on and around the drawing on the contract, being for this very reason secondary compared to the primary drawing, had, by material evidence again, automatically been proved to have to be dated later than 1936. So all texts by Blas Valera or by Gonzalo Ruiz, in consequence, had been forged. I will go. I think time is up quite soon. 2 minutes, that's fine. I will bypass the next examples of particular parts of the manuscripts that fall together with the all parts that have somehow these two handwritings. This is yet another tracing, and etc. And the last thing to mention is that in 2015, the 400th anniversary of the Nueva Coronica, a Italian scholar, Davide Domenici, professor at the University of Bologna and successor to Laurencich-Minellii, who had worked a number of years on the syllabic quipu, which I've now shown a number of times, the painted quipu, was in fact the only possible original quipu of the whole material. So his conclusion was that that particular part of the Miccinelli manuscript was original and authentic from the 16th century, while all the rest was most probably fake. So in a way, at that point, everything was resolved, and we are waiting for some repercussions of these findings. Thank you very much.